Recently, outgoing New Mexico Governor Richardson caused quite a stir when he made the announcement that he was considering pardoning long-dead outlaw William Bonney, Billy the Kid. Some people just looked at the whole thing incredulously. After all, the kid has been dead for over 130 years. Why would the governor want to pardon him now? Part of the problem extends from the fact that Territorial Governor Lew Wallace, who's best remembered for writing the book Ben-Hur, had promised the kid a pardon in exchange for his testimony against the Santa Fe ring. You're probably thinking, Santa Fe what? Well, in the 19th century, in the 1870s and 1880s, there was a war inside the state of New Mexico called the Lincoln County War. It was between various factions. There are any number of ways to look at what the war was about. It might have been a continuation of the American Civil War, with a conflict between those who fought for the North and those who fought for the South. It may have been a conflict that extends from Europe, with the Irish on one side and the English on the other. It may have been a conflict that caused alliances between the long-standing Hispanic population in New Mexico and their allies with the other factions. But it was much more than any of those things. It was also a conflict which, like every conflict, mixed and matched groups based on local political alliances and happenstance of who you owed a favor. But what was really important is that New Mexico was on the verge of its next big jump. It was about to be, the railroad was going to come, and the economy was literally expected to explode. And so all the political and economic factions were maneuvering to increase their power. Unfortunately, it was the American frontier. So the rules that we normally observe today didn't hold. And so ultimately it broke out into a war, a shooting war, with many of the people being killed. Governor Wallace apparently wanted to punish the politically powerful Santa Fe group for having caused the war, or started the war, and for what we would now consider to be criminal activity involved during the war. And he was going to use Bonney as a tool to testify against the ring, and in his hope that he would be able to not only punish them for the past, but perhaps defeat their political influence in the future. It didn't work. In the end, he was not able to do much about the Santa Fe group, and in the end, he abandoned the kid. That's created a dispute as to why exactly he did this. Did he not feel he got the benefit of his bargain? Did he find the political power of the Santa Fe group too much to deal with? Were there other more pressing matters of state that he was involved with? These are questions that have been out there for a long time. And curiously, even though this happened 130 years ago, there are still partisans who are deeply committed to one vision or another of what justice means in this circumstance, and it was powerful enough to cause an outgoing governor to make this announcement. Of all the kind of legendary characters in the American Old West, Billy the Kid is the most enigmatic because his behavior matches any number of models. You can see him as an outlaw, you can see him as a partisan in a civil war, you can see him as a young person struggling to grow up in a very complex environment. His statements, behavior, or such that he's become a very useful historical character because every age has been able to paint him as whatever it is that they need and whatever it is that they need to abstract from his story. In this sense, the denial of the pardon makes a kind of sense because it keeps alive the amorphous quality of the legend and permits people to continue to use him for whatever they want. Few people have had as many books, motion pictures, even Aaron Copland's musical has inspired as many American artists as he has. And part of that is because he's a person that's difficult to get a fix on. Would this pardon have put a fix on him? Probably not. But what we can be rest assured of is that the decision not to give the pardon will not end the controversy about his place in the history of the West and in the history of America. Because there's something about elements of American history that reinvent themselves by the retelling. And he's a person who's particularly useful at retelling that story.